Hello and welcome to another update. In this one I'll be covering the whole front line, starting out on the Zaporizhzhia front, where the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Novodanilivka. So the Russian forces are here attacking in this direction as they try to gain control over the highway that goes in the direction of Orikhiv, as they try to advance towards Orikhiv from multiple directions. So far it seems that they have not successfully captured any of these villages, as they were reported on a month ago. Ever since then, the Russian forces started doing artillery strikes on the whole front line, and now they are doing probing attacks every once in a while to make sure that the Ukrainians aren't leaving this area for Bakhmut or any other parts of the front line. Then we move on to the Donetsk front. We see here that the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Berkhivka, as well as Uledar, as well as Pobieda and Marinka, as they try to advance within these axes of attack, as they are preventing and trying to gain control over these areas and preventing any Ukrainian buildups of troops, and trying to push back the Ukrainian forces attacking in the southern residential area of Uledar. As for Marinka and Pobieda, the Russian forces are advancing in this sector as they have advanced in the direction of Pobieda from the Marinka area. So we see after they captured this part here in the 14th and the 5th of February, they are now advancing here southwestwards earlier today, as they have reached this part of the intersection towards the Pobieda area, which means that they're closing on Pobieda itself. If they manage to capture Pobieda, then they will allow the Russian forces to then make a flanking maneuver in the direction of Marinka, going around it rather than straight at it. And then we go to the Nevelsky, Pervomaisk, and Vodiana area, where here the Russian forces continue attacking in these directions as they attempt to gain better position in these areas, as well as to advance and to prevent any Ukrainian gathering of troops in these areas. They are also attacking the direction of Avdiivka, which honestly makes no sense to me because Avdiivka is so heavily fortified. Any attempts at going at it is completely useless, and they should be focusing on enveloping, which they are also doing, as we see they're attacking in the direction of Novobakhmutivka, where here they are continuing their advances within the village as they try to reach the highway that goes north of Avdiivka, which will allow them to then attack from the northern area, which will allow them to envelop from two directions, from the direction of Vodiane, as well as this northern direction. Then we reach the Bakhmut front, where there's heavy fighting on the whole front line. Here the Russian forces are attacking in the southwestern area of Ivanivske, in the forest area here, as they try to gain control over the hill here to the southwest of Ivanivske. And they're also advancing in the southern parts of Bakhmut. If we look at the recap, we can see that they have captured this tiny part of the residential area to the southwestern outskirts of Bakhmut. However, this is significant as they now have a foothold within the residential area. Previously, they would reach the forest line, but they wouldn't actually enter the residential area. Now they're inside of it. This means that they are not attacking from an open area anymore. They're now within the residential area, which means that they are about equally balanced when it comes to attacking the opponent's position. The defender, of course, has the advantage when it comes to residential areas. However, now they're both in residential areas, so it will be difficult for the Ukrainians to push the Russian forces out. Then we see them continuing the attacks in the southern outskirts of the city as they advance within the area north of Vopytne, as well as trying to advance within the cemetery. As for the eastern part of Bakhmut, the Wagner PMC is advancing here in the residential area, as they have now captured this part here to the north of the part they captured yesterday. As we can see here, they captured this major part yesterday, and now they're advancing further to the north. So we'll likely see them advancing westwards soon, as they now have a wide enough flank to cut Bakhmut into two, or at least a residential area here to the east. We also see fighting all over the eastern parts of Bakhmut, but more significantly, we see here to the north of Bakhmut that the Russian forces have managed to capture Berkhivka. Now, what does this mean for the Wagner's PMC fighting here to the northwest of Bakhmut? It means that they are now going to focus on two axis of attack, southwards towards Yahidne and westwards towards the Bova Vasilivka. We can see here that the Russian forces in this case, we can see that there's this river line here. That means that these two villages are actually separate from each other. That means that the Russian forces can focus on one axis and can pour most of the forces there, and then they hold the line on the second one. as there is a high ground here that they are in control of, while the village is in a valley, which means that with this focus on the southern part, they'll be able to capture Yahidne, and then they'll be able to advance towards Hromove and cut off the road, which is the final road in and out of Bakhmut, other than the TO504 highway, which I've mentioned earlier with the canal bridge broken. It will not be as useful as the road between Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar. However, with this new threat to Yahidne, where the Russian forces are attacking from the eastern part as well as straight ahead at it, and now also from the western part, where they try to gain a hold of the highlands here to the west of Yahidne. After the capture of Berkhivka, this means that the village of Yahidne is now significantly under-defended compared to what it was earlier. The Wagner PMC, after the capture of Berkhivka, are taking no breaks. They are advancing southwards in the direction of Yahidne and also westwards towards the Berkhivka, where here the Russian forces are also trying to advance further north in the direction of Odihovo-Vasilivka, as well as Selizhnyansk, as they attempt to gain further control over these areas, as they now are in control over the highlands in this section. This means that both of these villages of Selizhnyansk and Odihovo-Vasilivka are in a lower position than the current Wagner positions, and at the same time they've cut off this road between Bakhmut and the west. However, they still need to cut a further part of the road as to completely cut off any possibility of supplying through this area, as currently they can use it for a long distance and then they will just hop between the villages through the open fields, as the ground is currently frozen. However, soon enough, the ground will become unfrozen as weather turns warmer, as well as a lot of rain, which means that the ground will become unfrozen and it will become muddy, which will make the fields unusable and only the roads usable, which leaves these two roads of the TO504 highway, as well as the 00506 road between Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar, to be the only two supply routes in and out of Bakhmut. However, with the Russian forces advancing to the residential area here to the southwest of Bakhmut, and them holding these positions of these hills south of the highway, the TO504 highway is also under fire control by the Russian forces, which means even if the Ukrainians can use it, it is still under fire control. So if the Wagner PMC manages to capture Yahidne, they'll be able to reach the road between Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar, and Bakhmut will be operationally encircled. So this is one step closer to operational encirclement of Bakhmut, with one final step left, and that is the village of Yahidne. Now, to the north of Soledar, fighting continues in the direction of Berkhivka, as the Russian forces are trying to advance towards that village as well. And then to the northeast in the Siversk front and Kreminna fronts, the Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Berkhivka, as well as southwest in the forest of Kreminna, and westwards in the direction of Sarishne, as they try to advance and get a better zone of control around Kreminna to better protect it from the Ukrainian forces. And then the Russian forces are also attacking in the direction of Berkhivka, here to get a better control over the river line between the east and the west of the Kreminna front. And then finally also in the direction of Selmahivka, where they're also trying here to gain control over the river line, allowing them to have a strong defensive line here to the north of the Luhansk front. And that is all for this update. There was a lot to summarize, but thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.